Ladies and gentlemen, it's the 13th day of war between Israel and Hamas terrorists. The world is standing in solidarity with Israel. Parts of the south that Israel had declared safe zones were also targeted in the nearly 2 weeks since Israel began attacking. In response to a devastating Hamas rampage in towns across southern Israel, airstrikes have relentlessly hit the densely populated territory. And this is Israel's fight against terror. We'll play out the reports in a short while from now. But before that, let me introduce our special guest joining us on This Is Exclusive. It's the IDF spokesperson, Major Doron Spielman, who's joining us. Major Doron, thank you very much for taking out the time and speaking to South Asia's leading broadcaster, Republic Media Network. Let me first take this question with regards to 13 days into the war. What's the current situation like?
So first of all, thank you very much for having me. And it's a pleasure to be speaking to you and, of course, to your audience. So as you mentioned, 13 days ago now, Hamas terrorists massacred all these Israeli communities. We've seen the pictures. But for us, the Israelis, this kind of tragedy just keeps going on and on. It hasn't yet abated. Just last night, people who were going through a home to clean a home went up into the attic of the home, the second level, and they found the charred, burnt bodies of a mother and her 5-year-old son who had been hiding there from Hamas terrorists. And now we understand what their fate is. So these continued images and these continued pain really is racking through the Jewish people, the people of Israel. As we've said, and as you mentioned, we are going after Hamas. Hamas are the terror organization, really the face of evil, very similar to ISIS. They're a global problem. It happens to be that they're only 2 kilometers from Israel. Our goal is to go into find Hamas leadership wherever they are and destroy them. And when they are destroyed, the lives of the Israelis will be better. The lives of the Gazans will be better. And I believe even people in India and throughout the world, their lives will be safer as well.
Major Doron, let me ask you this question because many are still wondering. Those who are standing in full support of Israel at this point in time, especially here in India, given the fact that you are a victim of terrorism, we too have been a victim of Islamic jihadi terrorism. Hence, I'm asking you this question. You've already given an ultimatum to those who are currently in Gaza, especially innocent civilians, to evacuate, to leave from Gaza. Do you fear that by opening up the borders, there is a possibility that Hamas terrorists could also escape? Because let's make it very clear, no matter the kind of bravado that they are essentially trying to show, the reality is that they too realize what's coming in the next few days. So aren't you opening up the doors for even Hamas terrorists to escape?
I have to thank you for asking that question. I really do, because it's clear that you are reading and understanding the news and understand the military situation. The answer to your question is yes. We are, of course, concerned. Hamas have no problem killing innocent people. They certainly have no problem hiding amongst innocent people and running away. And that's exactly probably what many of them will try to do. And it's a price, an incredibly heavy price that Israel is willing to pay in order to allow Gazan civilians to move out of the way. If it was up to Hamas, not a single Gazan civilian would move. They're already keeping many at gunpoint. If they kill Israeli civilians, they win. If we respond and they push their own civilians in the line of fire and we kill one of their civilians, God forbid, they also win, because then they turn around and cry out to the world. So I am concerned, Israel's concerned, but it's a price we're willing to pay because we care about civilian life.
A lot of us are extremely concerned because this is not a fight just that Israel would be taking up. This is a fight that every right-thinking country would be worried. You're talking about an Islamic jihadi terrorism which affects several other countries too. Hence, I'm asking you this question yet again. Will there be some sort of a pressure with foreign leaders now coming in, talks of a ceasefire taking place, several other concerns, and of course there should be a rule of war. And I believe that right-thinking nations like Israel, India, we do believe in rule of war, but you're dealing with not another nation. You are dealing with a terrorist group. Hence, I'm asking you this question. How exactly are you going to take this forward? Because this time, This time, if it is like a war, what we have seen in the past, the last 5 wars that you've had with Hamas in the last 15 years, then it would be certainly extremely disappointing if you do not take concrete action.
I can tell you that the leadership of this country has positioned itself in a completely different paradigm. This time we have declared war against Hamas. This is not a military operation. We are not preparing right now for a quick aerial raid to go into Gaza and take out targets and come back. Our leadership have instructed us, and our soldiers are being trained to carry out a long-term war. They've said to us, and we think it's true, it's going to take perhaps many weeks, months, in order to achieve the goal of completely eliminating Hamas, who have embedded themselves so deeply in the civilian population, have buried themselves underneath the ground in their terror tunnels, as you mentioned, are going to slip away with civilians and try to regroup. We are in this for the long term. And I can tell you, if I walk around my own neighborhood just outside of Jerusalem, what you see today, it's amazing. Our grandparents, trailed by all of their grandchildren, because the mothers and fathers in their 30s and their 40s, everyone's been recruited. The kids' parents, the kids are now being taken care of by the grandparents. We are here, we're united, and we're focused to achieve the goals that have laid out before us, destroy Hamas and destroy their capabilities. And that is the way we'll bring peace back to Israel.
Doron, bear with me, because a lot of viewers are wanting to perhaps send across a question to the IDF. We have a number of people who are joining us on this broadcast, and hence perhaps I will get into some specifics right now. In terms of the hostage situation currently, I've spoken to several family members. It's heart-wrenching to see the pain that they are going through, and they are in the dark. Hence, I'm asking you this question. How exactly is Israel now trying to resolve the hostage situation? On the one hand, you have the Western world saying that, look here, there should be humanitarian assistance to be provided. But what really happens to those family members whose loved ones are in captivity, and there is absolutely no idea what is going to happen in the coming few days? So how are you going to resolve the situation? What is it that you're going to tell the family members of those whose loved ones are in captivity?
So Israel has placed the hostage situation, or hostages, at the very top of our list. Again, everyone in Israel, we're a very small country. Everybody either knows a hostage or knows a soldier or knows somebody who was killed. Everyone is related. We're family in this country. This is a top priority, and our hearts are crying out for all these people who, as you and I are speaking right now, they're being held in some damp, wet tunnel deep underneath the ground, even 9-month-old babies. Who takes a 9-month-old baby as hostage unless you are a sadistic killer, which is exactly what Hamas is? Operationally speaking, we have major people working on this. We have commanders. We've set up different units, both an operational unit, and there's also political units that are dealing with this. However, I will say something very clearly, and this is what the military establishment has said. We are going to achieve our goal of eliminating Hamas. They should not think that by dangling our hostages over their head, they are going to get out of our sights. We will find all of them, even if it takes time, and all of them will pay a price for what they did. We will eliminate every single last one of them.
Major Doron, what we also witnessed in the last 24 to 48 hours, especially, I would hold the Western media extremely accountable on this entire front, because there are psyops which Hamas is now indulging in. You have a hospital that was bombed. IDF has already put out evidence to suggest that this was a failed rocket attack that took place. Major Doron, for all viewers who are watching you tonight, I'm urging you to try and help them understand what really happened that very night, and how exactly are you saying that it was the Islamic Jihad that was being carried out? What is the evidence that you have gathered apart from the transcripts of that conversation that took place between two Hamas terrorists? What more can you share with our viewers?
So we have much evidence on many different levels that, when you put it together, makes an unbelievable case that this was Islamic Jihad. First of all, at 6:59 p.m. a day and a half ago, Islamic Jihad released a barrage of rockets towards Israeli civilians, geared to kill Israeli civilians. One of those rockets was seen on Al Jazeera, which was filming live, misfired, and lands in the area of the hospital. That is first the most compelling footage. Many of the other rockets were intercepted inside of Israel. So we see directly in the line of fire of Islamic Jihad towards Israel lies the hospital. We see a video of a rocket misfiring and landing near the hospital. We then have a conversation between two different Hamas operatives, which we release to the public, very rare that we release intelligence, where they are discussing between them how the rocket that they've just seen landed near the hospital and Islamic Jihad fired it. We also have brought radar. It's very, very clear that the radar shows it was Islamic Jihad, and aerial photographs. First of all, showing the hospital itself was never hit. That in itself is a lie. Number two, the rocket landed in a parking lot next to the hospital. And if you look at the crater made by the rocket, this is not a crater that is made, and this has been confirmed by experts all throughout the world. This is not a crater that was made by any type of weapon that would have been fired aerially by the IDF. It is from a rocket, a homemade rocket that caused a lot of damage because the fuselage was still full of fuel. You put all of these things together. Islamic Jihad fired at the exact same time it happened. It was in the direction of the hospital. You have got Hamas who are specifically speaking about this. We have radar coverage. You've got Al Jazeera footage. It's an open and closed case that this is Hamas. The issue is, and this is the most important thing I think for your viewers to understand, imagine watching a football game. One side of the field has rules. The other side of the field have no rules. They can carry the ball, they can run with the ball, they can throw it, touch it, do whatever they want. That's what's happening here. The IDF have rules. We will do real reporting. We will check and give you the truth. Hamas have no rules. No rules. They can lie to you and it doesn't bother them. And that's exactly what happened about 28 hours ago when they made that false appeal and claim to the world.
In terms of the number of targets that have been identified so far, you all have successfully carried out the retaliatory airstrikes. Could you give us a consolidated understanding of how many such targets have been neutralized? Are there bigger challenges? And also, if you could address to our viewers with regards to the criticality of the operation that is being carried out right now.
So, as we mentioned, Hamas was well entrenched inside of Gaza. They were prepared for this. And they even had early warning systems that were located on top of their buildings, inside satellite dishes, inside water heaters. Our aerial attacks have focused specifically on destroying Hamas's infrastructure, the early warning systems, their supply depots, and most importantly, the leaders of the Nukba. Nukba is Hamas's absolute ISIS force. They're the ones who were trained to go into Israel, kill civilians, maim their bodies, mutilate them, and take them back as hostages. Just last night, we killed dozens of Nukba force people. We've killed their southern commander, their central commander, their weapons supplier. Every one of those Nukba force commanders has a price on his head, and they're starting to pay. And that's where our aerial strikes have really created a difference. We have already managed to dislodge a lot of their infrastructure. And as we go on with doing this, we continue to weaken the Hamas terror regime.
In fact, Major Doron, it's now time to address the elephant in the room, which is essentially whether at all are we to expect the ground invasion, a ground incursion to take place in Gaza? How soon can that be expected? And whether in terms of the mobilization that has taken place so far, we have seen our reporters have been on the ground sending us reports that there has been large-scale mobilization that has taken place. The question is that are you all currently concerned about the current situation inside Gaza, and that is the reason why perhaps there has been a considerable delay as far as the ground offensive is concerned?
So I think we have to look at this. We're used to Gazan, to Israel responding to an attack by either Hamas or Islamic Jihad with a short-term campaign, mostly from the air. This is a totally different paradigm. As our leadership have told us, both the military leadership, which I'm under, and the political leadership, the message has been very clear. In order to achieve this goal, we need to be well-trained and be able to equip ourselves for a war that could take months and months. And as you mentioned, as the footage is showing on your channel, our troops are being prepared. They're training all throughout the border areas. So if they are called upon for a ground invasion, they're going to know exactly what they need to do, whether it's from the air, the sea, or the ground. We are getting ready. And when that green light is given to take that next step, the IDF will do its job and we will succeed in eliminating Hamas. And that's what you're seeing, and that's what we're getting ready for.
One final question that I would like to take with you, Major Doron, is that it's 13 days now. A lot of talks that are basically going on. There is a section which is now romanticizing, sympathizing with terrorists too. Hence, it is important that you address to that very section too, who are romanticizing and saying that, look here, Israel should rethink. What is it that the world really does not know about the Hamas? What is it that they are doing currently in Gaza? And why exactly it is very, very important to take them out? What is it that the world does not know? We have spoken about the hostage crisis. We have spoken about the human shields that they have taken into account. What is it that the world still does not know? And Major Doron, through Republic TV, that you would like to address those terrorist sympathizers, that perhaps it is time to rethink.
I think that, first of all, we need to look at the core DNA of Hamas, and we'll choose Yahya Sinwar, who is today their most well-known leader. Yahya Sinwar is known as the butcher of Khan Yunis. Why is he known as the butcher of Khan Yunis? First of all, he tortured and killed Israelis. However, he is known by the Arabs in Gaza as the butcher of Khan Yunis because anyone that he thought was a collaborator, and there are stories of 22 Arabs that he rounded up, he accused all of them of being collaborators, and he killed every one of them. Didn't kill them. He made them die of torture, medieval torture methods. This is a sick and deranged individual. He's a sick and deranged man, and that is the core DNA of Hamas. You are looking at an organization that has trained, premeditated, and went out and killed civilians. It's hard for us to imagine evil in our days. We need to go back to ISIS. We need to go back to the Nazis. We need to go back to true evil to understand the heart of this regime. Any one of you, in any countries of your world, if these were your sons and daughters, if Hamas, a terror regime, had come in and terrorized your country, what would you do? I am sure that you would then say, we are going to destroy this because we cannot exist at the same time they exist because they seek our destruction. That is the message to the world. We have no choice but to destroy Hamas. Hamas is evil and it must be destroyed.
Doron, thank you very much for speaking to Republic TV, and I would like to make one earnest request to you and your team that it is essential that you speak to our audience. There are a lot of people who tune in on a daily basis to find out what's really happening in Israel. So hoping that on a frequent basis, the IDF would be joining us on Republic TV and give us the current situation, give us a sense of what's really happening on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.